Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I'm excited to go through a couple of interesting demos today. I know we've had a couple of connector corners focusing on the UiPath GenAI activities. Hoping that today is a little bit more practical in terms of both showing you what a finished product could look like in terms of actually building a full-fledged LLM application and how it would look potentially in a production setting, from the business user's perspective, and then also, what the development experience is like. I'm going to introduce Logan, a colleague and friend who is an AI product specialist, and he's going to kind of take you through the Studio Web experience. Obviously, this is also available in Studio Desktop and apps because we have a native integration with integration service activities. So excited to kind of get into it. So yeah, as I just mentioned, Scott Schoenberger, I'm a senior product manager. I work on the AI services team. I actually transitioned over to AI services from integration service, so I'm very familiar with and have done these kind of connector corners before. And then, yeah, Logan, do you want to introduce yourself or you want me to do it?
I can do it. Thanks, Scott. Logan Emerson, been with UiPath for about 4 years. Was a software engineer before coming to UiPath, and I spent most of my time focused on our AI product. So when I first joined Document Understanding, which might be familiar to some of you, but generally AI products is where I have been focused for all the last 4 years. And since Scott pulled me into this, I've been pretty excited about what these activities can do.
Awesome. Thanks, Logan. Okay, so let's talk about the agenda really quickly. We'll do a quick intro. I think most folks are probably pretty familiar. Also, we have a pretty small audience, so if you guys want to, pipe up, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to go through those as we're, proceeding through the demos. I'm going to show actually a video. I know that might be frowned upon. Sometimes it's good, it's nice to do these smaller sessions with live demos, but I do want to show this video just because it's fantastic. One of our colleagues, Tony, put together some apps that are using the GenAI activities. Then I'm going to give it over to Logan. He's going to talk through the Studio Web development experience. And finally, I'm going to do a quick demo showing you how to incorporate human in the loop or validation with action apps, which are a brand new feature, which I'll talk through extensively. And then we can do a Q&A. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves like where within the UiPath stack we're talking about. Of course, this is all automate. That should be pretty obvious to anybody who's been a part of these connector corners before. So we're using UI and API automation. Actually, I'm not going to show any UI automation today. It's all API based. And then highlighting some of our first party services that feature generative AI. So let's talk a little bit about the roadmap and kind of what we've delivered thus far. I know I'm kind of talking to the side here, have a different webcam. Apologies for that. So basically, we had activities that we rolled out to GA back in July. Those included the content generation activity, which is kind of your custom prompt activity. You can select from a variety of different models from different vendors, and you hold the reins effectively in terms of what you're prompting the model, and then of course what the output looks like. That's set up to be as flexible as possible, to let you build kind of dynamic prompt templates using runtime arguments and variables. We've just added context grounding to public preview. So context grounding gives you the ability to either reference a file or reference an index that contains a repository of files. I'll show how that works in a second. And then, so we kind of call that, like, let's call it the generic activity, right? Because you can kind of customize your prompt however you see fit. Then we have curated activities. These are meant to really demystify the whole prompt engineering experience. Not everybody in the RPA space is going to be super effective in that way. And, we want to limit the variability in terms of, the quality of outputs. We want you to be able to trust the outputs. And for that reason, we built these curated activities that are kind of distillations of things that you are commonly doing as an RPA developer in your workflows. That could be summarize, it could be kind of very specific things like generating emails, rewrite, language detection, language translation, and a variety of what we would consider much higher value tasks. Like if you look to the right, categorize, named entity recognition, object detection, semantic similarity. These are all things that you should see in the activities either right now or by October. So really excited to see some of these kind of come to life. These should look familiar too if you are familiar with the AI Center offering from UiPath. A lot of these are kind of ML skills or machine learning skills. In this case, of course, we're using generative AI instead of traditional machine learning. So a lot of power and I think configurability when it comes to these activities, and really ease of use is kind of the idea. Now, all of these curated activities have been quality tested, and we are monitoring the quality ongoing. So in other words, we've created kind of an evaluation set and making sure that the quality of the output is very high. So now, of course, you can, these aren't totally fail-proof, right? So if you don't follow certain recommendations in terms of how to use the inputs in these curated activities, the model could produce something that is less than ideal. So there is some thinking involved here, but much less so than kind of building your own custom prompt and then testing and evaluating and all of that good stuff. So that's the roadmap, which again, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we are actively adding activities. You'll see a couple new ones, one of which we're going to talk through in two different demos, object detection, but categorize and named entity recognition are both available right now. Really excited. Next week, we'll be releasing signature comparison, which I think will be super awesome for kind of fraud detection use cases. So let's talk a little bit about the infrastructure, the kind of the architecture here. UiPath GenAI Activities is a first-party service. However, we are using integration services kind of connector builder to build, deploy, and maintain these activities. Now, this is kind of a unique approach to kind of UiPath building internal activities. In the sense that we're really dogfooding our own, connector builder offering. So it shows you how kind of powerful that connector builder can be to build out, kind of custom activities that can allow you to connect to any publicly available API. Of course, in this case, we're connecting to internal APIs. So a little bit of a different kind of focus here. And really the APIs that we're connecting to are these, as you can see within this LLM gateway, which is contained in the UiPath AI Trust Layer. The AI Trust Layer is going to give you kind of governance capabilities, auditability, and it really focuses on all of the generative AI features that UiPath has. So any of the internal products that are using GenAI in one way or another, that includes Autopilot, it includes Test Suite, it includes process mining. Again, each one of these products has their own kind of feature sets that use generative AI. They're also using this AI trust layer. So basically what we've made available is that the GenAI activities can connect to the LLM gateway directly, and they give you access to these managed subscriptions to kind of the most popular, for right now, closed large language models, primarily from Azure, OpenAI, and also Google Vertex, but we'll be adding more in the future. So let's move on to the first demo. I'm going to go ahead and actually show a video here, as I said. So bear with me and make sure, maybe Diana, Logan, you can make sure that sound is coming through.
Not yet.
Tony here, and I'd like to introduce to you UiPath Object Detection.
No, I think it's
It's
coming
not-
through just through your mic. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Maybe I can turn it up. I don't know, Diana, do you have suggestions on how to best deal with
I
video?
think it definitely needs to be turned up.
Okay.
If you restart the share, you might. I don't. Did you already click the tick box for share audio? Because that would be the best way, where it'll share your computer audio versus your mic audio.
Share computer song, stereo.
Sounds good.
Got it.
Tony here, and I'd like to introduce to you UiPath Object Detection. This GenAI activity allows us to discover one or more objects in an image. So let's look at 3 quick scenarios: detecting an uploaded image, detecting multiple objects, and proactive process automation. Our user is following up a claim and has been requested to upload a photograph of their damaged mobile phone. Using the file picker, they select the photograph that they want to send. As you can see, pretty damaged. And then they submit it for assessment. The assessment of the image is done in real time. So the image is being processed by object detection, and also combined with context grounding, a reply is given back to the user. And as we can see here, the AI has responded by saying it has found the required object in the image, and that their claim will now be processed further. UiPath Object Detection has successfully found the required object, the smartphone, and successfully described its condition as broken. This ensures processes downstream are not impacted or delayed by missing or bad data from upstream. But what happens if the image was incorrect and did not contain the required object? Well, let's see that in action. Here we have the request for evidence again. The request is for the picture of the iPhone, but our user sends a picture of their cat. Again, object detection is run in real time as the object is sent to the system. And here we can see that successfully the AI has discovered there is no image of a smartphone and requests that the user retries to upload a relevant image. So object detection combined with context grounding provides an AI-driven way of validating images and providing useful feedback. In this next example, we'll be detecting multiple objects. Here, our user Mary is wanting to replace her office chair because it is currently broken and damaged. So she fills in her requisition form. The category she has chosen is office furniture, and she provides a picture of the office chair in situation. She then submits her request for approval. In this example, the image is uploaded and processed in background. During runtime, a dictionary of objects can be passed to object detection. In this demo scenario, different asset categories contain different dictionaries of objects. We will now log in as the asset management team. As you can see, a number of requests are waiting, and here is Mary's last request. You can see it contains a picture of her office chair in situation with some details. Importantly is the AI assessment that object detection ran. The category requested a search for light fittings, chairs, and carpet. Multiple objects have been found. Notice object detection found a ripped and torn carpet in addition to the broken chair. Mary's request is approved. In the third scenario, we'll now see AI-driven proactive process automation in action. We log in as the incident manager. Notice the incident management system has a new entry. As we'll see, while processing Mary's asset request for a chair, the AI detected the ripped and torn carpet and initiated an incident process automatically as a health and safety issue. UiPath-driven process automation proactively initiated that incident management process without human intervention. How would you use UiPath object detection in your business?
Okay, cool. So yeah, I wanted to show that honestly because I think it's a great demonstration of, you know, how you can use the GenAI activities in like directly within apps. And again, I think the vision capabilities and also, you know, the fact that the detect object activity is run by a curated quality controlled prompt is really going to speed up kind of POCs that you can run and will give you kind of a really good starting ground. So I'm going to pass it off to Logan, and he's going to take us through some of the Studio Web developer experience.
Thanks, Scott. Just give me a verbal when you can see my screen.
We can see.
Excellent. All right. So I'm going to start a new project here. We're going to go relatively basic. If there are any requests in the chat to extend this, maybe there's time to do that. But I'm going to start this with just a simple manual trigger. I'm in my environment here. And what I'm going to start with, well, actually, maybe I'll describe what I want to do here first. I've got some files that have stamps on them or not. So something that I see a lot as a technical consultant here at UiPath are customers looking to solve an issue where there are documents coming in and they want to validate, hey, is this a notarized document? Has this been stamped by a notary public or something like that? So what we can do is identify, was this stamped or not? That's been pretty challenging in the past. Certainly, you can bring in object detection models into the AI Center experience and make that work. But making that work is no easy task. It's certainly not as easy as what I'm about to show here. So we've got the context there. Let's start by using the Microsoft 365 download file. I've got a OneDrive that has some files that I'll be interested in checking out. So I'll use my connection to make sure that works. Let's use this first one. All right, so we're downloading this agreement file. We'll be able to see this at the end to validate whether this was correct or not. Now let's use from the GenAI Activities pack, the detect object activity. Got to make sure that this connection is good to go. Looks like it is. And how we use this. So we identify some entities. We're going to describe what we want to find on the page and then any additional instructions that we might want to direct this activity's attention toward. So like I said, we're looking for a notary stamp. Maybe I'll add another one for signature. And we'll provide some simple descriptions of a notary stamp. So rubber stamp, circular, or sometimes circular. And what I want to call out here is that this doesn't require us to be exceedingly good prompt engineers. You may be a good prompt engineer yourself. I'm okay at it myself. But we don't need to worry about that sort of thing. What we're doing is really just putting simple information into fields, and the activity is guiding us through this, so we don't need to be prompt engineering experts to make this work. And I'm just going to go as simple as the description of a signature is a signature. I would expect a large language model to be able to figure that out itself. We'll see how successful that may or may not be. Additional instructions for detection. So let's add for that notary stamp. Often at the top of a document. Just additional context about where we might see these things. Cool. Next, I'll just select the file. Very helpful with these activities. Using autopilot, it will direct you toward where that might most likely be. So just to demonstrate that again, this is just suggesting this using autopilot for developers. So I think that's an excellent little feature. These are the outputs of that. And just to get started, I'll write a line of one of these outputs. We can just say entities detected, just so we know what we're working with. I'll run this quickly. And again, we won't see the image yet. We'll see it once we've completed this development process, but just want to get a sense of what this output is going to look like for us. So we make sure that we're developing this correctly. All right, cool. So what we're seeing here is some key value pairs in an object. So that gives me a good sense of what this is going to look like. Maybe if we do this document, just want to see what this looks like. I know that this invoice document does not have any signature or stamp on it. So I want to make sure that I know what the output looks like when there's nothing in it. I expect it's going to be something like a empty array or something like that, but just want to make sure. Okay, cool. Likewise, empty array. Cool. So what I think I want to do now is, well, what's this final output going to be? Let's send this file to a channel in Slack. I'll show that. Make sure that connection is good. SC integration. Slack integration. Live demo. Sorry, folks. We'll grab that file again. Now, what I want this to do is just let me know, hey, we found this. We found the entities that we were looking for. Here's an image. And just like keep us updated on as these come in. Did we find the stamp? Did we not find the stamp? This could be integrated into app tasks. This could be emailed. I like this Slack integration. It's simple for demonstrations. But again, use your brains. Think about how you might want to expand upon this. Maybe use more variables in the outputs. But we can add a comment, so this will show up above the image in the Slack channel. So let's do this entities detected. And since this one doesn't find any, I'll just go to this one and see what happens. I'll run this. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to stop sharing because I doubt I'm going to be able to show Slack. So let me reshare real quick. Sorry. I'll just share my whole desktop. There we go. Scott, just give me a verbal if things aren't showing up, but I expect this will be fine. So now we're running this. I'll make sure that I navigate to the right Slack space as well. These are old messages. There'll be our little spacer there. All right, so we've got this output here. Notary stamp detected. Yes. Detail, circular rubber stamp at the bottom left side of the document. That's really helpful context. That could also be used in some sort of variable to maybe slice up this document for downstream processing, potentially. Signature detected, yes. So we've got a notary signature here. Is it handwritten? Arguable, but it is meant to look like handwriting. So I guess good enough for the purposes of that detection. And it also has details. So signature present above the printed name, Jane J. Doe, to the bottom right side of the document. That actually provided quite a bit more than I had expected. We can run this one more time. Let's see what the output might be with the agreement. And there's that. So detected, yes. Detail several circular notary stamps are present in the document, including at the top center and bottom. Signature is present near the bottom left of the document. Interesting. Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. Signature right there. Bottom left, arguable. Some thoughts for expansion. I won't necessarily do all of these, but I think something you could do is maybe let's set a variable and do something like, well, let's create a new variable and say stamp count. Create that. Currently it's set as an object, so we want to change that to a number. And if we want to make sure that it has 2 stamps, then in our outputs, we could then validate, hey, are there 2 stamps on this based on these outputs that we saw here? So yes, several circular notary stamps are the top or near the top. You could use other GenAI activities to say, hey, given these details on the notary detection, or the objects detected, the notary stamps being detected, is there an indication that there are 2 stamps at the top, and then map that to this variable value that was set. Now we've done all this part manually. So manual trigger, set this variable value manually, but upstream from this process, again, get yourselves thinking about how external applications might have outputs that we could grab to set this value, say 2, and then that is the requirement of the user. Then have an output that is something like this that says, yes, confirmed based on this external application, we have found 2 or more stamps. And here is the evidence of that. And again, this could be emailed, this could be Slacked, this could be put into a third-party application and displayed. Feel free to come off mute. This is the end of my little development journey here. Happy to show more if you think if it'd be good to do, Scott. But any questions that you all may have about this development experience, happy to answer live right now.
Don't be shy. There's not many of you here. Okay. Anybody? Show me a sign of life at least. Anybody here?
I have just a quick question. Hi, my name is Valerie, or call me Val. But I just had a question in regards to the activities when you want to, using OneDrive. Because this is using the web version of Studio, right?
That's right.
Yes.
And the generative AI is only available with the web studio. It's not available with the desktop.
No, it's available both.
Oh, it is?
We're showing Studio Web just because it demos a little bit better. But yeah, no, the activities are definitely available in Studio Desktop. Everything that you see functionality wise is the same in Studio Desktop.
So for the OneDrive activities, because I've tried to utilize Web Studio before, like one of the templates, and the template had like a OneDrive activity, and it required us to connect our Azure or OneDrive solution, like from a corporate standpoint to the solution, like
Yeah, you have to create a connection to a specific OneDrive SharePoint. Like you have to use credentials to connect.
okay. Is that
Yes.
something we have to use it from from the users? The users who the automation is going to be looking into their folder for. I mean, how can I say? I mean, we all have OneDrive accounts, so we have to just basically use the credentials of the person in which the drive or the files are going to be.
You could do it that way. I think that there's probably a service account that you could also use. You'd have to set that up in Azure. I'll be honest, I'm not an expert on that. We have another product manager that works exclusively on Office 365 and Google Workspace connectors and activities. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure though that you could set up a service account and give it the appropriate permissions to view, kind of everything in a corporate SharePoint environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep. But yeah, usually if you're like whatever, when you authenticate with a certain set of credentials, you are going to kind of emulate that user. So any activity, right, that's using that connection, or a robot that's using that connection will, execute API calls as if it were that user.
And I think I missed it in the top of the, I think I missed this, but in order to use the generative AI for desktop, does that require additional license, or is an intended user automation developer system
Yeah,
developer license?
good question. I screwed up and didn't highlight that in the PowerPoint. So each GenAI activity execution costs 1 AI unit. So basically, every time you execute the activity, whether that's in debug or whether you have actually deployed a process to a robot, every time an activity runs, it's 1 AI unit. If context grounding is involved, for now it's free. But in the future, when that goes GA, there will be an additional AI unit likely assessed at both debug and runtime. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And is the best place to like get more information on the various features or automations that can be created with generative AI, is the best place to go to the UiPath Academy, or is there like example documentation, like examples?
Yeah, we definitely have docs up. I believe there is a 100 level academy course, and they're working on a 200 and 300 level academy course. But no, I definitely recommend the best way to like get started is to just start working with the activities directly.
Okay.
And you'll kind of figure out some patterns for how you would work with the activities. Remember, each individual activity execution is relatively cheap, right? So I don't think you can do too much damage by just running debug activities. But yeah, you would have to go ahead and get an AI unit bundle if you don't already have one. So if you're using DU, likely you already have document understanding, likely you already have AI units available.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to jump into, so what, this is like a good segue actually. What Logan was showing was basically he was using Slack, right, to kind of confirm or at least see what the GenAI activity output was, a little bit more complex, right, than and just, seeing a log message. But really this idea that, you're going to have GenAI activities incorporated into your workflows, into your apps. Likely, you're going to have some kind of interaction or validation with the business owner, or kind of a human in the loop, right? What I wanted to show you is kind of how the action apps work. So basically, we've set up, and this is through Apps and Action Center, if you're not familiar with those offerings. But basically, we've made it so that you can create a totally custom application in UiPath App Studio, and then you can set up an action schema within that app. So this is what that looks like. What I'm going to show you is just a process that's going to run that will take a support email from a customer, and it will come up with a response to that support email referencing product documentation in context grounding. And then in Action Center, a new task will be created so that in the middle of the workflow, the robot will pause and wait for confirmation that the output from the GenAI activity was in fact accurate, or take any kind of manual updates. Or even if I had, in this app, if I had additional API calls, right, using integration service activities in apps, I could I could basically take any updates that were made to variables, pass those back into the robot workflow, and those will use those updated values. So that's what I'm going to show you here, but just kind of showing that I've built this kind of custom template app. This is going to take in certain values from my workflow, and then I'm going to say send message or end agent. So that's what you're going to see here in a second. So I've already sent an email asking about shared connections, which is a concept that probably you all are familiar with, and if you're using integration service. So this process, I'm going to just click go, and I can explain it while it's going. But this process is going to be triggered by an email that's received. Obviously, I can set different parameters for which email would trigger the process. And I'm going to use a couple different GenAI activities. One is summarize text. So I'm going to go ahead and just summarize the email body. And what I want to do with this summary is kind of create a ticket title. And then I'm going to categorize the support request. So I've given this a couple of different categories from which it can kind of choose from. It's very similar to the dictionary experience in object detection, but I've given it like integration service, orchestrator, document understanding, so that we can categorize where this, what product we're talking about for the particular support request. Next, I am going to identify the severity. So I'm using categorize again here. I've created categories for low, medium, high, severe, right? And I've given descriptions of each one of those categories so that the LLM can kind of make a determination on, hey, based on this customer support email, what do we think this would fall into based on how we categorize things according to severity? Next, I'm going to create a fresh desk ticket. So this could be literally any, ticketing platform, Jira, Salesforce, whatever you like. Create the ticket. I'm going to have the requester email sent from the trigger. I'm going to have the content category and then the summary as the subject of the ticket. I'm going to have the description be the email body for now. I could update that in the future. And then here's where things get really interesting. I'm going to submit a custom prompt here. Kind of, you can see part of it. Your goal is to generate an initial email response to a customer support email with a suggestion for troubleshooting. I give it instructions on how I want it to output. I said I want it in HTML. I also referenced an existing index. So basically what that means is I have added a couple, I've really just added one document, but you can add hundreds of documents to an orchestrator bucket. It has to be in a shared orchestrator bucket. And basically what I can do is I can reference any of the documents that are in this orchestrator bucket and ground the prompt in that context. What does that mean? That means, hey, I only want you instead of, ChatGPT land, right? I get all this like public domain data that was that the foundation model was trained on. In this case, I really want it to only consider very specific context. And so I'm providing that context by referencing either an index